Hey guys, this is Alex.
And this is Drew.
And today on the Two Man Comic Book Club podcast, we're taking a look at issues 7, 8, and 9 of Vision from 2015 by Tom King and team. Let's go.
Did I catch a niner in there?
If you did, I didn't say it on purpose.
No, you said 9, and I was wishing you had said 7, 8, and niner.
Yeah. I thought about starting with the cheesy joke.
Oh, yeah. I love this joke.
Do you know why 6 is afraid of 7?
Oh, no, I was thinking of the toaster joke that's on the first page.
Oh, no. Well, do you know why?
No, I do. But...
Yeah. It's because 7, 8, 9, which happens to be the issues that we're covering. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
There's a...
Would have been worth it.
Let us know if you like that kind of thing.
How many times are we covering issues 7, 8, and 9? I think you would have...
It's a two-man first.
You would have been totally...
Yeah.
We would have if Naomi had gone to 7, 8, 9 because we covered 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And 4 or 5 sits. 4/5 sits.
Are we on, if we cover Doom again, are they about to, would 7 be the next one that we have to do? I think so, 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an opportunity there if we decide to 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
And we'll go from there. How you been, man?
You mean since we recorded last?
Yeah.
I've been great.
If you are a keen watcher, you'll know that we're wearing the exact same clothing because we're recording multiple episodes today.
I put on a different shirt underneath. That way, if I felt like changing it up, I'm trying to represent Vision well with my Superman shirt here.
Yeah.
But
they both have capes.
Yeah, but
Same
I decided you left the same sweatshirt on, so I left this
on. Well, depending on when we upload this, there might have also been an episode between, so we'll see how keen people are and actually noticing. Also, I wear this sweater all the time.
This is one of my few going out long sleeve shirts.
When you're feeling like dolling up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I don't leave the house anymore.
Yeah. Me either, man. I'm like for real here all the time.
Yeah.
But that means I get plenty of opportunity to read these awesome comics. So because we are literally recording back to back, I don't have anything.
Do you want to make it up?
Sure.
And guess what you've been reading, yo, in the future? What you been reading, yo, since our last recording session, which totally wasn't 30 minutes ago?
Preemptive guess. So I can either tell the truth or lie here.
Yeah. Say what you think is likely or be super outlandish.
By the time that you're all listening or watching this, it's very likely that I've read several more issues of Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run. I'm also still going through some of the older Wanda and Vision comic books from the 80s. And I'm very much considering taking on another major event. I'm always hesitant to jump into those because it's a commitment. If you're going to do it, you got to do it. But I would really like to read House of M.
Yeah, I thought about that one.
And go into that. For those who don't know, that's where Wanda loses it and goes and says, "No more mutants." And then there are no more mutants.
Oh, I didn't actually know that's what it was about.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was House of Magneto.
No.
Wow.
I mean, actually, I think kind of, yes.
Thanks for the spoiler alert there.
I mean, that's like one of the first things that happens. So
I'm just kidding.
It's like, how many years ago, I wonder? I think 2004 might have been when that came out.
There's like a definite statute of limitations on not having to worry about spoilers.
Right. Yeah. But that's a really cool one. I think it ties into a lot of stuff. And I just want to read it because I think it's going to be super relevant to all of the WandaVision stuff. And speaking of, we're about to get into issue 7. Again, like the last time we covered the Vision comic from Tom King's run. We're loving this run. It's so awesome. The art, the story, very compelling. We covered 3 issues. We felt like that worked out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We kind of took some notes preemptively to make sure that we had a nice flow to what we're doing, but we're definitely going to move with a little quicker pace so where you can get this whole story for you guys. And probably the next issue we'll actually cover 10, 11, and 12 and make sure we wrap up the story so we don't leave you guys hanging.
Why was 7 afraid of 8 and 9? Because 10, 11, 12.
Oh.
That's
my God. Almost as good as the toaster
talking
joke.
Toaster.
Yeah. Awesome.
I should have just made that the punchline.
Somebody is calling me, and I'm not answering it.
I've gotten one from Hope, Arkansas a few times recently.
I think it's spam.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you've been watching WandaVision, first off, I love it. You heard our, if everything goes according to plan, you heard our reaction to the first 3 episodes. It's so good. It's so cool. And I think if you somehow have not started yet, that this issue that we are covering right now is a must read. It's just a one-off for, I would argue, the most potential for source material that they're actually going to pull for this series, because it takes some time to go back and establish where we've been, if that makes sense at all. So I think this one doesn't have as many like new revelations unless you're just completely new to these characters, but it does do a nice job of summarizing how do we get here? How did Vision and his family end up in Virginia with all these terrible things, with the Avengers breathing down their necks? And, how did all this happen? So we're going to jump right in, I think. Man, this might be a record for the fastest we've ever jumped.
You didn't ask me what I've been reading, Yo, in the future.
Oh, yeah. We're not jumping right in. What have you been reading, will be reading, Yo?
I'm proud to announce that I have finished reading Vision.
A
Finally.
bold claim.
By the time you listen to this. And I've also finished reading We Are Robin. 10 out of 10, would recommend.
Wow.
I mean, I've really only read the first two. But I finished the first, the two graphic novels, trade paperbacks that you gave me, and they were fantastic. We should definitely cover them. I also
garbage.
I also finished reading a few more Stephen King short stories. Really good stuff.
Wow.
And I also ended world hunger.
You're going to have a next productive next couple weeks.
So you're welcome.
Wow.
Future.
I can't wait to not be hungry anymore.
Yeah. I just did it by getting rid of all food so that everybody's always hungry, and then we get used to it.
Wow. I don't think that's going to work.
I only did it yesterday.
Okay, so we'll see.
Yeah. The proof's in the pudding that doesn't exist anymore.
Awesome. Well, now we're going to jump into WandaVision. I'm going to be doing that now because WandaVision's out. I'm talking about that. This is just Vision, although this book does have quite a bit of Wanda in it, which might be a surprise to you as we have not really seen her that much.
Nope.
With the exception of the last issue at the very end, the last page. She was bringing Agatha Harkness forward. Just to remind everybody, the creative team behind this book, specifically for this issue, is slightly different. Tom King is still the writer, but we have a guest artist in Michael Walsh. Jordie Bellaire, however, does still do the colors, and VC's Clayton Cowles is still on the letters and production. So I was taking notes for 6 comics all at once, and I decided for this one that the best way for us to present this to you would be to essentially read this to you with the quickness as I put in my notes. So that doesn't mean we're going to give you every single line in here, but we are going to take some moments to read some of the narration, read some of the monologue that the characters have while the panels are coming across the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, we'll try to do our best to describe some of this for the readers. That's something we need to make sure we're always doing, is describing the art that they're seeing in these moments. So starting off, we're just going to see how this goes. Hopefully this works. The very first page of this is quite striking in the context of what we've seen so far. So we see Vision sitting in bed, presumably without clothing, sitting next to Wanda in the same manner. And they're sitting there. They look like some activities have just taken place, and they look very shocked. And the caption of the above says, "I too shall be saved by love." So they're sitting there, and essentially we get the sense with the narration that they're just basically, we're going through time and we're capturing brief moments of Wanda and Vision's relationship. And it says, "Behold the Vision and the Scarlet Witch, some time ago when we were young and everything was new and different." And then Vision starts to tell a joke in the moment. So you imagine this awkward silence after whatever happened. And he says, "The Wasp told me a joke recently. Would you like to hear it?" She says, "Okay." And Drew, do you want to tell the joke?
Yeah. I actually made a note. This is the first notes that I made was awesome toaster joke. So, hey, Alex, you want to hear a joke?
Yeah, hit me.
2 toasters are sitting on a counter. One toaster turns to the other toaster and asks, "Do you sometimes feel empty?" Then the other toaster says, "Oh my God, a talking toaster." And the look on Wanda's face, she's just like this.
Right. Very like caught off guard. And then she starts laughing. She says, "Oh God." And then she starts laughing, covering her hand.
Yeah.
And Vision starts laughing. And it's a nice lighthearted moment, just to show that they get each other. They love each other. And then they start cuddling. And then we move to later.
And they start cuddling.
Yeah. It just cuts away. They cuddle. They go to bed.
Yeah.
We move to later. And then suddenly it's chaos. The Avengers. And you should notice the older Avengers.
I actually didn't notice.
Classic Iron Man armor.
I didn't see what Thor looked like. I didn't see what Iron Man looked like.
Yeah.
I did notice that they were definitely old school looking, and even Beast looked old school.
Right.
What's the story with
Captain America.
yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know that might be the guy that took over for Cap or has the shield at some point.
I mean, Iron Man calls him Goggles.
You got a Goggles old Shellhead's back. I don't know.
I think they may say something in the next one.
Yeah, maybe they have it. It looks like Captain America's shield, but the dude has a green pants and a yellow stripe on his helmet with green. And I don't know who that is. It looks like it's not Cyclops. I don't know who that is. So if you're a better comic nerd than we are, let us know on Twitter at 2Man Comic Book #2. But anyway, all this chaos is going on. The Avengers are fighting, and we see off to the side behind this tree.
They're just necking.
Yeah, they're sniffing each other's hair, so to speak. You'll see them on the panel. And basically, they're saying sweet nothings, whispering into each other's ear. And Vision ends up saying that he loves her. And there's a funny moment of him saying that and her not responding. And he's like, "Do I need to adjust my vocal volume and repeat? It's not really a comfortable thing for me to do, but I'll do it for you." She's like, "I'm glad you're comfortable, and I love you too, you talking toaster." So just a moment to show that even in the midst of chaos, they're still developing this relationship. Moving on to the next panel, we're further in the future.
Yeah. It took me a while to realize that each of these was like incrementally forward.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So we're at this dinner party, and Wanda is sitting there next to Vision, and then we see Agatha Harkness next to her, and it goes through and sees these names. We have Robert Frank the Wizard, which until I read these older comics, I had no idea who that was. He was kind of a father figure for both of them as their for Wanda and Quicksilver as they grew up before we knew that Magneto was their father. He was kind of this father figure there. Bova, I forget how to say the last name, this cow that you see that has taken on kind of a human posture is essentially like the caretaker for Wanda and Quicksilver as they grew up. She basically was like a housemate, not a housemate, like a mother, nurse, nanny type thing.
Okay.
She just raised them. Then there's Agatha Harkness, of course, and Quicksilver. And then we see Simon Williams, a.k.a. Wonder Man, which if you've been paying attention, is who Vision's conscious is essentially based off of his brainwaves, and that's Grim Reaper's brother, also an Avenger. And then we see them there, and they're giving toasts to everybody. And it pans again. This just shows kind of a light moment. There's family. They're all getting together. And then we go later, and they're in a home together, and this is where we see them get the famed Wundagore Everbloom, as they call it. And basically, Wanda's just explaining to Vision, this thing is impressive, but doesn't really get why, and talking about how you can have magical visions and stuff. And he's like, "Well, should we do it then right now to see the future?" And she's like, "Well, doing it right now is a beastly process." She kind of alludes to it being very funny. If you're watching, you got that, and I'm not going to tell you. You have to go watch. She's seen the future, and she's aware of what's going to happen, and she says, "You're my future," And then we get into a heavy scene. Now, this right here, this is page 14 of this comic. I think this page right here might be some of the heaviest source material. I've not seen more than the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. I think this might be a very big plot point for the upcoming series, or the series episodes that we haven't seen yet. So Wanda is in this nursery, and she's shushing a baby to sleep. And she walks out into the living room after doing that, and Vision's sitting there in a chair. And I'm just going to read some of this and kind of describe what's going on. He says, "It has gone on too long, Wanda. We need to talk about the children." Wanda smiles and says, "Steve sent over an American flag blankie with a note for me to put it in the crib." And Vision, with this very grim face, says, "Wanda." And then she interrupts and she says, "I called him and told him you can't put blankets in the crib when they're this little." And he started going on about how he delivered was delivered in a tenement building in 1920, whatever. And he's like, Wanda, please. And he puts his hand on her hand and he says, they're not real. And her face is just like sunken in, and it completely captures. This is a moment where the art absolutely drives home the feeling and the emotion that they're wanting you to feel when you're reading this. She's losing it kind of here. She's not aware that her children aren't real. She basically blows up on him here, calls him a toaster. And she's like, they're not real. What are you? Or, what are you to tell me they're not real? And he's basically trying to reason with her and not, fight with her. But she can't come to terms with that this is these babies that she might be thinking she's seeing are not real. And that is a comic book accurate thing. Then we pan forward again. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I've read all this and know exactly how we get here.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
We get that volume adjustment thing one more time.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, Wanda, did you not hear me? I will adjust my vocal volume.
Yeah. Yeah, because he said, and what good can come of this lie?
Yeah.
He's like, why are we lying? Well, good, and that's the thing. So I have not read enough.
Yeah. This was like way out of left field for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the very end of this segment that I was like, oh, okay. And I was able to kind of put some things together.
Right. So hopefully you'll make some sense of this too. I don't know as much about Wanda and Vision's relationship as I should. That's why I'm going back and reading all these 80s comics right now. As we've mentioned before, Wanda and Vision do in fact have children. So I don't know if what we just saw, the Vision telling her that the children aren't real, is a real thing, and then somehow they actually do end up having children. But their children are Wiccan in speed. They have powers that parallel both Wanda and Quicksilver. And we mentioned before that Wiccan was part of like one of the most prominent weddings of Marvel history recently. But they're little boys here, and they're twins, and they're sitting there, and we see the Vision, and he is completely not the color that you've seen before. He's white and grayed out and completely void of the classic iconic colors that you see. And the boys look at him, and they're in this very space-like looking structure. I'm not sure where they're at, but they say, Daddy, why are you white? And he said, what would you have me say, Scarlet Witch? He's like, what do you want me to tell them? And she's like, I'm not, if you insist on being what you are, you have to tell them. And he says, very well. Recently, my original body and my original operating system were destroyed. What you see before you is a new body and a new mind, a new vision. As such, though I contain the mechanical parts and memories associated with your father, I am no longer your father. You are not my children. Your mother is not my wife. And Wanda starts crying and like covering her boy. She's like, what is wrong with you? You used to be kind. And he said, is the truth not kind? And then we pan again. Again, we're just like blazing through, jumping through these different points in time. And now we see Vision still in the same colorless state, the reborn Vision, standing over Wanda, and she looks like she's in a trance. And basically Vision says, you will not remember my words today, just as you will not remember losing Thomas and William to the devil from whom you stole their souls. So right there we get some context of how maybe they came to be. She stole their souls from the devil, or from someone, maybe not the devil, to actually make those kids that weren't real come to fruition. It says, just as you will not, or to protect you, Agatha will take the memories away, destroy your children as easily as you created them. In this we have something in common, you too shall be new. So Agatha Harkness helped wipe away all these memories with her witchcraft. Vision then says, nonetheless, I am leaving today to rejoin the East Coast Avengers, and I wish to say goodbye. The future has come, Wanda. The future is here. And if you're an eagle-eyed viewer, you'll see that a single tear rolls down his face. Moving forward, do you want to cover some of these?
Sure.
This is with Wonder Man.
Yeah. So we're forward again, even though it says
Jumping
later.
ahead.
And we've got Wonder Man with Wanda, and they are in an embrace.
Yes.
And Vision phases in, but he looks like old school Vision. Red face, green and yellow garb.
Yeah, that second line panel sums it up well.
Yeah, he's like, oh, excuse me. No need to apologize or explain. Restoration of my former operating system need not impact your relationship decisions. So we were like, oh, I guess his old operating system is back. So he's back to your same Vision. So theoretically, he could still be with Wanda, but Wanda's moved on. But
An interesting choice, too, of who she's moving on to, because
same brain
it's
pattern.
the source material from her last lover.
But she has a gift for him, and it's a little chip, a gem, just like his forehead. But she says it's been imprinted with my brain patterns, so maybe you can find someone like me, but not me.
Yeah.
And I'm just assuming that that's the one that ends up being in Virginia's forehead.
Yeah.
Is my guess.
Well, as we move forward, we find out that's exactly what happens, because she's sitting there, and we get a basically bookend of the same joke that we started with. So if you saw the picture before, I'm going to take a second to put both of these images up on so you can compare and contrast them. It's the same thing, except instead of Wanda, it is now Virginia. They're sitting in bed after something has happened, and he tells the same toaster joke to a completely different reaction. It's much more dark and moody, and
because right here we are back to he's just brought home a dog, and he knows that she's killed multiple people.
right.
And
Yeah, the context of everything has completely changed. And the issue ends with the narration saying, in the end, we begin again, and everything is new and different. So we kind of get several things here. That's the end of the issue 7. So I hope we did a good enough job summarizing it, but you should definitely go back and read this one, especially because if you go through and read all the narration, you get a lot more details and depth in the story and character development of what you're seeing in the MCU's interpretation of that specific story. So we have here not only a how did Vision get here, but a why Vision got here, because he had this wonderful relationship that completely fell apart, and he tried to recreate it himself. You know, we go back to when we were last talking about P and NP, and he tried to make this a P issue and fix it. Like, but he can't. This is not something that he can fix. You can't just recreate and manifest love like you had for somebody else. And it kind of alludes to why it's not working, why there is chaos ensuing when you try to create something that you can't just create and manifest out of thin air. And that's the end of that issue.
yeah, it was an interesting look back. Like I was telling Alex beforehand, whenever I saw the cover, I was like, well, that's weird. Why is all this Wanda on here?
Yeah,
And then we had, I enjoyed the departure in the art style.
for sure.
But I was just like, oh, okay, filling in the gaps. And it was good. I think it's what my little brain needed, because I don't know a whole lot about
Your little brain.
all this stuff.
I like the art style as well. I think it feels... I'm trying to describe it. In a way, to me, it felt just slightly more dream-esque.
Yeah.
Like if you were to reminisce.
There were multiple panels on there. They'd be like, dude, I'd totally hang that on my wall.
Yeah.
It just the choices that the artist made. Who was it? Walsh.
Yeah.
And then
And then the colors are also still the same
Bellaire.
colorist, Bellaire, but that I think because the colors are so consistent, it helps tie the two art styles that are not completely void of each other's characteristics, but they definitely work well together. And yeah, it ends, and I think we'll take a quick break, and then we'll jump into issue 8 and even issue 9. We'll be right back. And we're back, and we're going to jump right into issue 8. Now, this one has a lot. It throws a lot at you, so I think this one was maybe the hardest to actually fill in, because you need the context of the first few pages. So what I'm going to do is discuss just the general vibe of the opening pages, read some of this narration, and make sure that you are following who the characters are that we're looking at in this issue. Cool. So we open up and we see essentially they're just continuing on life. We're looking at all the members of the Vision family. So we have Viv playing back the track of CK in the rain, whom she was flirting with, so she's still remembering and reminiscing about this boy that she liked who's no longer with us. We have Vin reciting the Shakespeare, the one that we were hearing a few issues ago.
Merchant of Venice.
Merchant of Venice, that's it. We have Virginia playing at the piano, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, and then they kind of play into the merrily, merrily being a glitch. It's kind of a nice little moment. And then we have Vision outside, lasering off the snow off the sidewalk, because we have a fresh Virginia snow. And the dog that they have, whom I don't believe we have a name for yet.
That comes
And
in a
we
minute.
come in a little bit. Oh, fun fact, they did a reader poll to actually name
really?
this dog. Yeah, so the readers of the comic got to pick the name. I think that's why they did issue 7, to give them time to read it,
Yeah.
input the things, and then write the issue. So the dog is playing with a ball, playing fetch by himself.
Woof.
While Vin is still reading Shakespeare, he picks up the ball, throws it out the window. The dog, of course, phases through the window and goes out to catch the ball. And quickly, we see the ball bounce and roll up to somebody's foot. And this is where I'm going to start reading some of the narration. So it says, follow the bouncing ball. Yep.
Before you start, the last issue was a look back, and the narration was independent.
Right.
I'm kind of curious. I didn't think about it until we realized that what's her face, Agatha, had been the narration of the first one. The color of the narration is different now,
Yeah.
so I'm assuming that's their way of saying it's no longer her.
Right.
I don't remember if I felt that kind of humor that Douglas Adams
It didn't feel the
omniscience.
same.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's ever going to be a point where we realize that this is somebody, or
The colors.
is it just a generic narration now?
Right. The colors are the same as Wanda's. I don't know if
good call. Good
I don't
call.
know if that's her or not. And she was definitely the one that was like being used to talk to the Avengers through Agatha
call.
Harkness.
Okay.
And it would make sense in the context also of her recalling.
I'm going to try to pay attention as we're going through this to see if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to read some of this narration. I'll put these panels up on the page so you can get it. The ball has just rolled up to somebody's foot. We don't know who this is. So it says, once, long after he created the Vision, Ultron attacked the Avengers for the 5th or perhaps 6th time. He was subsequently defeated for the 5th or perhaps 6th time. The remains of the robot were deposited into a scrapyard in L.A. Years later, Marianella Mancha, forgive me if I said that wrong, was digging through in a scrapyard for metal to use for an architectural project. Miss Mancha found Ultron's head. It spoke to her, and she took it home. The dog is at this point kind of checking out this ball and looking at who has it there. Miss Mancha confided to Ultron's head that she was physically unable to have children. She was also unable to adopt children due to her criminal record. Ultron's head offered Miss Mancha a fair exchange. If she helped him build a body for his head, he would help her build a son. Miss Mancha accepted, and the construction of Victor Mancha began. So we see this hand come into the scene to pick up the ball, and as he's rolling up his sleeve to pick it up, these robotic flaps start opening up, and we're still not sure who this is. Very reminiscent of, if you've seen Ulysses Claw in Black Panther. His arm kind of opens up and like has electric, shocking, shooting, blasting powers. Ultron gave Victor false memories and nanobot-enhanced organs and blood. As such, the day he was turned on, Victor believed himself to be a normal 16-year-old boy. So we're starting at this point to maybe think that this is who we're dealing with here. This is Victor, somebody also created by Ultron like Vision was. Victor discovered his true nature when a group of runaway superheroes confronted him during a high school football practice. They said they had information from the future. Victor's robotic body will eventually allow him to manipulate the forces of magnetism. Years from now, with this power under the name of Victorious, Victor will join the Avengers.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Same name as a Doom character that we've been covering.
Yeah.
Once he becomes, Once he becomes,
let me jump in.
Yep,
Did your Spidey sense? I don't know why I'm doing this. This is like
Batman.
Andorian antenna from Star Trek. Did your Peter tingle whenever you read about the group of runaway superheroes?
I just assumed the Runaways.
I did too. Have you ever read or watched any of that before?
I have not.
I read the first couple books, but I've watched the first season. And anyway, it made me think, I never finished that. I need to go back because that was also tied in with Cloak and Dagger, which was really good.
Right.
And I think they had a crossover event.
Cool.
Because I think it exists. It looks like those TV shows exist in the same world as the MCU, but it's like...
Right, they're kind of slightly removed, but
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I have not read them, but I assume that the writers would not just put in the
They mention
Runaways.
Runaways specifically a little bit later. So.
Right, yeah. So once he becomes an accepted and trusted member of the team, his original programming will activate. And this is important to note. So through this whole thing, he's picked up the ball, he's thrown it. The dog is literally levitating and flying through the air to go fetch it.
Just looking at this. Yeah. Woof.
Yeah, right. And Vision is watching all this happen, but completely not reacting. So he's seen this mechanical arm like electrocute this ball into his hand, pick it up and throw. The guy's obviously aware of the situations, but Vision's not reacting. Very unique choice. So the guy, we finally see his upper body and we can see his face.
Did you finish the thing before I interrupted you?
did not,
because
sorry.
this is important.
Yes,
We've heard this somewhere.
Vision's looking at him, and the narration says, and he will betray his friends and teammates. He will kill them. He will kill their families, and he will raise the world.
Boom, boom, boom.
Which is how the last issue ended. So we finally see him, and it says, "Behold, Victor Mancha, son of Ultron, brother of Vision."
Yeah, I didn't even put that together because my vision of Vision comes from the MCU where he was created by Tony Stark, essentially.
Right. Well, and Ultron.
Yeah, and Ultron, but like more. I view him as an extension of Jarvis more than anything.
Right.
So that it always caught me off guard when I was like, oh wait, oh yeah, that's right.
Right.
And you see them hug and everything, and you're like, oh okay, well this took a turn that I wasn't expecting.
Right. Yeah, it's hard when you fall in love with the content the MCU is putting out to remember that they use source material, but they definitely take their own liberties with it. So it's the same but different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Okay, so
It's like it's the same, but it's not. Kind of like the gem that is in Virginia's forehead.
right,
It is like Wanda, but
it
it's
is
not.
Yeah. So we carry on. Vision brings his brother in, and basically everybody starts hanging out with their uncle Victor. They introduce everybody, and we do get the name of the dog here as Sparky.
It also says, the narration above that, he joined the Runaways.
Yes, that's true.
There we go.
Yeah. It says later, after it says he joined the Runaways, it says later he joined the Avengers, serving with Vision on a team known as Avengers AI, which I have not read. It sounds like a fun.
Is it an actual existing book?
I've got to assume that there's an Avengers AI.
I mean, but I also kind of like the idea that, like, I've heard things where people talk about, oh no, it was whenever I used to listen to that podcast about the X-Men, Jay and Miles break down the X-Men or whatever.
Right.
And they were talking about something that happened between Jean Grey and Rogue or something like that, but it was never mentioned in the book and just made the world bigger.
Right.
Because it didn't have to happen on panel. Things are happening. The world is moving.
Right. So it's like they develop it without having to write
Part of me
stories.
thinks even if Avengers AI has never existed as a comic book entity,
Right.
it's cool because now it does, even if we've never read about it.
For sure.
Not that that's important to the story in any
gonna
way.
gurgle
I just
it later.
mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we get more narration that alludes to that Victor has always worked hard to emulate his brother, and that if he could just be like Vision, noble and strong, then obviously he would never become victorious. So they go out to dinner, and there's this funny moment where they're basically like literally doing it just because it's what people do.
Yeah.
They order food and then tell the waitress to make sure they don't actually cook it because they don't eat.
Yeah.
They're
but
all
they'll
robots.
still pay for it.
They still pay for it. And he's like, yes, I'm sure. Just wait 45 minutes and bring the bill for the exact amount.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, okay, that's kind of weird. And during this whole time, Victor's talking about quote unquote grandpa, which is Ultron, and talking about even though he was terrible, he always had quite the glorious mirror abs. And just talking about how he had some redeeming qualities, even if he really didn't.
Did he call them glorious mirror abs?
Yeah, he
Because
said,
in the
admire my glorious hair and glorious mirror abs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where the hair, because I was turning the page and Vision makes a comment, your hair is quite glorious.
Right. Yeah. They do make that joke. They're walking inside, and it's kind of like they allude to that he moves into the house across the street from them. It's a brand new listing.
Oh, did they? I never took that.
Yeah, because
I thought he was staying with them.
We'll see when we get there, but I interpreted it as because they make sure you get the shot at the bottom.
My thought was that the Visions are running the neighborhood off. like people are like, no, these people don't want to live across these socket lovers,
Right.
and so they're like, I'm just leaving the neighborhood.
When
That's
we
what I thought.
When we get to it later, I'll tell you why I
Yeah.
thought that he was actually moving into this other house, but maybe he's not. So it says days passed. He is definitely around in their house if he is living with them, and he kind of notes that he took some piano lessons and he sits down with Virginia and starts playing what the notes appear to be kind of crunchy, so maybe not amazing, but also they're playing on that vibranium
Yeah.
Steinway, so who knows what it sounds like. They're going along. They have a moment. They kind of embrace. He tells her he understands, and he basically just gives her a hug and says it's okay because he can tell that she's troubled and just needs a hug. And then we pass some time, and we find him playing basketball with Vin and talking about Shakespeare and how he reads it too much and reading into it and all this other stuff. And then we see him kind of being a shoulder for Viv to cry on when she's standing at the grave of Chris Kinski. You know, she's still obviously shaken by this, and it's a pretty intense moment that happened in her life. And she basically says, I'm glad you're here, Uncle Victor. I know you did not want this. Nevertheless, I'm glad that I'm not alone.
Did you feel like she actually phased down to look at his body? At first, I thought that the snow was just really deep, but then the next one shows her standing on top of the snow.
Yeah, it definitely is weird because
she
would imply that
said,
she's like standing in his coffin.
I should not have seen that. She said that.
Oh, well then.
And he said, I tried to. I told you. So so I really thought that
I guess so.
she
went
phased
and
down in
looked.
there to look at his body.
I didn't even think of that. That's creepy.
Yeah. It
But
really
also,
is.
it's just weird.
They wouldn't think anything of it because they just phase
It's
wherever
just
they want to.
matter of fact.
Like, I want to go look at this thing. This thing. What did I just say?
Yeah. So we phase again. So at this point, he's had a sincere moment with Virginia, Viv, and Vin. And now we find him at this art gallery with Vision. And basically, they're just having a conversation. Victor's like, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking me in this winter. Thank you for your wife and kids and everything. You've got a great family. And they're looking at this Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck artwork. And it looks like somebody's taking a picture of them with their smartphone, like they almost are on display. And Victor's like, does it ever get to you, like keeping them great? Like it's got to be a lot of pressure. And they basically start asking like more kind of deep conversations. Like, do you ever wonder what does any of this mean? You know, after they get into it. So here's where we get to where I think he was at least staking out at this other house. Is because Vin, there I am screwing up their names again, is outside in the snowstorm playing fetch with Sparky. And his mom comes out and she was like, our dinner conversations will commence shortly, Vin. Is this the proper time for fetch? And he says, you wanted me out of my room, Mother. I'm out of my room. He's playing fetch. He throws it. The ball bounces off their neighbor's house. Well, it's a house that is across the street. Comes back to Vin, but Sparky phases through the door. And Vin's like, no, come here. And he walks to this seemingly, I guess, abandoned house. So maybe this is why it still has the for sale sign. He walks in and he sees Victor sitting there, and he has this screen up and the Avengers are on it. And he's talking to them and he says, I have his trust. The whole family's, I swear it's not that. Vision just never talks about it. The Reaper, the Kinski father plans. I mean, he has to, he will, but he just hasn't yet. But we'll get the answer from him, I swear. And Vin catches all of that. So
Oh, that was interesting.
I don't know what that was. There was a
looking up.
large boom outside that sounded like an explosion. Hopefully everybody's okay. But anyway, he basically concludes very quickly that he wasn't supposed to see that, and Victor sees him. And I think it's important here to read the narration.
Yes.
And it says, at the end of this story, Victor Mancha will be all that stands between the vision and the destruction of the world. On that day, he will die. And as he dies and his system fails and falls to Vision's feet, as the last electrode of light pops black into his left eye, Victor Mancha will smile. Creepy. Yes, he will think, yes, I have defied destiny. I have fought back fate. I am a hero like my brother. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? I shall not be victorious. And during this whole thing, there's this standoff of Vin asking, like, is that Captain America on the screen? What are you? And Victor's like, Vin, you need to listen. You weren't supposed to see that. Just listen for a second. Vin's like, I have to go. And he's like, no, stay. Just listen. Starts freaking out. It escalates as you would. And then that hand that looks like Claw's hand opens up and starts shocking Vin into Vishu.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's one of those that escalates really quick at the end, like ramps up the dial to 11. Yeah. What'd you think about it?
Yeah. I mean, part of me was like, well, Victor came out of nowhere and all of a sudden this happens, but we're going to take a look back in time in the next issue where we get to see a little bit about him,
right?
To make it not feel as doctored, Ghost of the Machine type stuff.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, I still don't know that I think he is living next door. I really feel like it's
maybe it's just the stakeout where he's
it's a stakeout. It's meant to be like the Avengers bought the place and made it still look like it was.
Yeah, it's just the base of operations for him. Yeah, I guess I just saw him in there and assumed, but yeah, I think you're right. This is just a fun little bit. I'll throw this up on there. There's a list of all the dog names that were entered into the contest to decide. Lots of fun ones in there if you want to pause right here and read.
A bunch of V ones.
Obviously. I'm surprised they didn't go with one because they even have his brothers, Victor, and everything. That one was a lot. But again, in issue 9 that we're about to read, I think you get a little more context about who Victor is and what's actually going on here. How did we get here with Victor now?
Yeah.
Cool. So I say we jump right in.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with this one? You ever use the button at the top?
I never think about it.
2 clicks.
Oh, let me turn my...
Your handy dandy notebook.
Yeah. So we pick up immediately, like across the street as all this is happening in issue 9.
Yep.
And Virginia's wandering around asking everybody if they know where Vin is because it's time for us to begin our evening conversations or whatever.
Right.
And I like it. Viv is just like hanging upside down from nothing because she can float, reading her phone. She's like, I don't know where he is. I don't keep track of him, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So she keeps wandering around. All the while, the panels are interspersed with lightnings, lightning waves, or lightning. Lightning doesn't come in waves.
It looks like Sith lightning.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And little things, mother. So obviously he's still being shocked. And Virginia goes to ask Vision, same thing.
He was playing chess.
Yeah, everything's fine. I'm sure Vin and Victor just blocked access to their servers to attain some privacy. And she's like, Vin has never done that before. And he's like, he's getting older. And then it shows him like screaming in pain, mother, with lightning around him. And she's just kind of, I didn't catch this the first time.
Yeah.
She's just standing in the middle of the living room with her legs phased through the couch.
Yeah.
And he's screaming, Mommy!
And she's also asking, she's like, where's the damn dog?
Yeah.
You know, like, she's just trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And then we have our first little back step. And it's that red narration bubble again, for what it's worth. And it's just kind of giving us a glimpse into Victor's past. So he's talking about the first time he used vibranium was after a fight with his father, Ultron. So is that something that is a big deal? Like vibranium is able to be used as a drug?
I think not necessarily a drug, but it has like a lot of medicinal properties. I sound like I'm an advocate for smoking pot right now. It like is able to stabilize the like imperfect creation of his, because he's also a synthezoid, right? Like it's basically enhancing him, calming down, letting him control his powers. And I think they allude to that a little bit more whenever we get into further parts of this, because he gets a source of it from his friend and ends up actually asking
one of the members
for
of the Runaways.
Right.
He's like, hey, try this out.
Yeah.
And I was trying to remember if I knew Chase was the guy. If I remembered him being one of the characters on the Runaways TV show that I watched, but I couldn't recall. But yeah, he's just sitting there cradling it, trying to, I think, talking more and more about how he was trying to not become Victorious. He wanted Victorious, the bad guy.
Right.
He wanted to save the world, and he needed to rest.
Yeah. And remember, I think it's important to say that, remember, the theme here is He wants to be like Vision, who was also created by Ultron to destroy, but got away from it and ended up being a hero. So he doesn't want to be what his father created him to be. He wants to be away, not victorious.
Yeah. And then we cut back and see that the fight is still happening with the shocks. And he's like, shut up, shut up. And he's like, this is him, Victor, shocking Vin. And Vin is like, stop, stop, stop. And, you know, it continues showing him like through time fighting different foes. And he's like, he fought and fought and fought. And just then there was like, they're having a casual conversation, him and Chase. Which I saw those hands, and I'm trying to remember. I think I know who it might be. There might be a character that exists on the Runaway show
that has the hands like that.
Yeah, cool. Something like that. But they're basically talking, and it's kind of that conversation that you've seen a dozen times in movies, and he's like, "So, you got any more of the stuff?"
Right.
Essentially, and
it does feel kind of like a drug, but also more like a keeping him stable than anything.
And then I wrote, what are those? They're saying like, well, we should probably get to work.
Right.
And all these ships are flying in. I'm wondering, do you suppose that is like the ones from the MCU movie? I can't remember who those were.
It could be, but it could also be like a Kree or a Skrull armada. I don't know. There's so many major alien battle scenes.
And I'm thinking, I bet you if we were to dig into Runaways lore, that there would be a big fight or something.
Right.
Like
It
that.
probably in the context of that for sure.
But yeah, and then once again, we're back inside the abandoned house, and Victor's like, please, Vin, please, it's really hard to hold to you, you know, and he's just trying to get him to be quiet. And he's like, I can explain everything, but you have to stop fighting. Please, please stop fighting.
But he's asking him that also, like, if you're being shocked, you're just going to stay there and not move. You know, he's trying to break out of it.
And then at that point, the dog, Sparky, bites him, and he kind of stops for a minute, and he's like, calling out to his father and everything.
Yeah.
And then we see more flashback. And Victor, after he left the Runaways, he's flying through the air with Vision to be a part of the new Avengers group, Avengers AI, that we were talking about. And he'd never been happier. And he's wandering through, and he's looking through things, and he finds a claw. Is that the claw that you were talking about?
That is. It actually is the claw.
And it says, a hand forged in Wakanda out of pure vibranium.
Yeah, the one above that says the Avengers had recently recovered one of Claw's hands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, how amazing, he thought. What a coincidence, or maybe even a sign. After all, he wasn't even looking for it, you know?
Yeah.
And then we got more dogfight with him, and he starts shocking him again, and Vin's forehead, Jim, like fires off and like basically demolishes George and Nora's house. Well, as far as we can tell.
Right.
And that's what finally gets Vision's attention. And he's like, and goes to look into it. And then we step back, and this is where we kind of figure it out. I feel like this only happened recently.
Right.
So like Avengers AI, or were you going to say something?
Yeah, before you get into that, this is what they talked about, George and Nora dying later in a fiery burn in their house.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is how it happened.
Yeah.
Vin, his his laser shooting out of his head in a panic to try to get some attention, went through and blew up their house. But anyway, yes, like this, what Drew's about to mention shows how Victor got here, and it does seem like this would have been very recent that this happened. So go ahead.
Because it says the Avengers AI is disbanded, and he's sitting there, and they're like, well, we're worried. This is the Avengers are talking to him. This is Thor, Captain America, and that must be Iron Man.
Yeah.
And they're just like, we're worried about him. Something's off. We need you to go keep an eye on him. See if he knows anything about Grim Reaper. See if he knows anything about all this stuff.
Yeah, those are the questions. They said, answer these questions. Who killed the Grim Reaper? Who killed Chris Kinski? Did Vision lie to the police? What causes Vision's fall into madness? And what could possibly make him want to harm his friends?
Yeah. And then it kind of walks us back through him meeting everybody and his time with everybody while sitting there in that abandoned house giving an update, you know, and kind of answering those questions. You know, he's like, Vin's reading these books. He's obsessed. Something wrong. Virginia, don't know what. She's hurt. The daughter's hung up about Kinski, but she won't talk about it. And they're saying, what causes Vision's fall into madness because of what Agatha said.
Right. They're like trying to figure out, why is this happening? Why is he going to hurt everybody?
Yeah. And then it cuts again to him sitting there playing with the Steinway with Virginia, and he says that same thing again. How amazing. What a coincidence, or maybe even a sign. After all, I wasn't even looking for it. So he's using the stuff that's probably making him unstable again, or maybe making him stable. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either way. It might. I could interpret it both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the vibranium does make him unstable.
Makes him feel better.
Right.
But more
right
off kilter. And then it shows him, he's down there because he has in the real time that we're back in, he's knocked Vin out.
Right. Yeah. He's finally overloaded Vin's system with electricity.
Yeah. And Vision finally wanders in.
Or I'll read it out.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this panel where Vision walks through the door, or faces through the wall, actually. He doesn't walk through doors. And it shows Victor hovering over an electrocuted Vin. And it says later, Vision would learn Victor had miscalculated in the use of his magnetic powers. He excuse me. He had damaged Vin's incorporeal nerve system, including those nerves linked to his cognitive functions. Due to the extent of the damage, repairs... sorry, I'm stuttering all over the place. Due to the extent of the damage, repairs were not possible. Vin could not be revived. Later, Vision would learn that, though they were unaware of the problem that led to the misuse of Victor's powers, the Avengers were responsible for Victor's presence in Vision's home. Later, the Avengers would learn of Vision's losses and revelations, and they would finally understand what caused Vision's fall into madness.
Meanwhile, Virginia has followed him over. Yeah, and she walks in to find Vision basically cradling Vin's unconscious body. Victor's in the corner. Great. I don't know.
And poor Sparky, it looks like he also might have died in this altercation.
Yeah.
Laying on the ground.
They would finally know what could possibly make him want to harm his friends.
Yep.
So.
End of issue.
Boom. Yeah. And this one is where it started to hurt. I haven't read past this one yet, but I can kind of understand what they're getting at, that Vision is, the others have started glitching.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that we ever really saw Vic glitch, but Vin and Virginia that's right. Vin and Virginia were definitely glitching.
Yep. And Viv.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so maybe Vision's next.
Yeah. This is where you finally see, like, it is kind of the classic trope of self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing. It was a really good one, but I think we're going to take a quick break and we'll give up our closing thoughts and even do some two-man trivia. We'll be right back. And we're back with our lightning round trivia questions / wrap-up, where our questions are faster than Vin got electrocuted by Uncle Victorious after discovering his evil plan.
Yeah.
Was it evil?
No, I mean,
not
really.
Evil, but
this is kind of like we talked about in the last one, where over this whole thing, is Vision and his family actually the bad guys?
Yeah.
So more like, did he ever, when Vin walked in and discovered, the good guys watching him? I don't know.
Yeah, they were really just trying to find out without, they can't send the whole Avengers to his house and be like, we need to talk, because then he feels threatened.
Yeah, and you never know.
But
because he's Mundo powerful.
Yeah, it's continued to escalate to something not great.
Yeah.
Really good series so far, though. We've got 3 more issues that we'll try to wrap up in the next
time we record.
Next episode. But for now, it's time for some trivia. You want to go first?
Sure. I've got a 2-parter.
Sweet.
And I promise the answer is not Danny DeVito.
Okay.
It's not even about Danny DeVito.
Is it Will Smith or Oprah Winfrey?
No. This one's actually relevant to our current readings. So it's a 2-parter. I'm going to ask both of them. Okay. And then I'll give you a chance to answer, because maybe your brain works that way.
Cool.
So it's about Vision.
Cool.
Vision is an amalgam of a couple different heroes, right? Created by a specific person, not necessarily Ultron, like we're talking about, like the actual builder, the person who did it. So can you give me, for at one point, the 2 heroes that he is the combination of, and for another point, the person that actually did the building who was beckoned by Ultron to do the building?
He is made up of the original Human Torch and Simon, aka Wonder Man.
Yep. See, I knew that was an easy one.
Yeah.
But it's important because it's definitely relevant to what
Right.
we're talking about now. We've seen him in this episode.
So you're saying that
So there's one
somebody...
point. Yeah, Ultron got somebody to build him.
Okay.
This is according to, what I found online. He kidnapped a certain person who is relevant to the Human Torch.
Okay. I'm going to guess that he kidnapped Reed Richards. Final answer.
Well, this was the original Human Torch, remember?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, he was built on the framework of the original one that was actually like an android.
Right.
So I'm going to say that if you can think back, do you remember?
Deep cuts. I don't remember. Namor the Submariner.
No. I didn't know this name, but I thought you might because you're deeper in there. The original creator of the Human Torch, of the original Human Torch, was Phineas Horton. And he was the one, Ultron.
Kidnapped him.
This is according to CBR.com, so I'm assuming it's legit.
CBR is usually pretty good.
So Horton complied, but to Ultron's dismay, the scientist left the Torch's mind inside Vision's body, hoping he would destroy Ultron. The ruthless robot killed Horton, and then proceeded to base Vision's mind on the brave ways of Simon Williams, a.k.a. Wonder Man. So
cool.
You got a point because you got Human Torch. I would have been able to guess Wonder Man because of what we were reading. I wouldn't have known Human Torch, but I thought you probably would.
Yeah, I knew the original Human Torch provided the body.
Yeah. So we are currently, Alex has 2 points in this series. I have 1 point. Torrance has 1 point.
Yeah. There's a chance you'll get the one. I just have a 1 pointer for you.
That's fine.
Especially in the context of the stuff you researched, you might know the answer to this one.
Okay.
But I feel it's also important for our audience to know the answer too. So we just talked about who created a bunch of characters. We know that both Vision and Vision created his family. Victorious and Vision were both created by Ultron. Who created Ultron? Canonically in the comics.
Yeah, not MCU.
Not MCU.
I'm wondering. This might not be right, but I know that he has the brain waves of a certain person, and that's the person I'm going to guess. Hank Pym.
That is correct.
I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't looked that up because I would have been like, he was a crazy mistake of Tony Stark because of the MCU.
Right.
So
Hank Pym did create Ultron, which then backfired and it went bad. Yeah. So
I only know that because of looking up that question.
Yeah, but now you're on the board. We're tied again.
Tied 2-1.
2-1. Ha ha ha. Huzzah. Cool. Well, that was a lot. I hope you guys like this format of us going and covering. We're kind of speed ramping towards the end of this to make sure that we cover this for you.
Because we don't want to give 12 weeks worth of Vision while there's other stuff going on.
It'd be impossible. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Where can they find you on social media?
You can find me at Drew Morris Comp on Twitter, Drew Morris Composer elsewhere. What about you, Alex?
I am at Alex Wayne Miller on all social media platforms. Wayne is Wayne, just like Bruce Wayne, because I am Batman. And if you want to follow our good friend Tori, who is out for some personal reasons, you can follow him on Twitter at Torrance Watkins. Follow him for whatever reason you want to follow him for.
Me and him are working together on a little project. Hopefully, you guys will get to hear about it soon.
Cool.
I'm excited for it. We got to put some work into it. I've been geeking out over it the last couple of days. It's hush hush. It's not really hush hush, but I'm going to say this.
The two-man accounts.
Yes, the two-man. You can find us on Twitter at 2Man Comic Book with the number 2. Instagram, Facebook, 2Man Comic Book Club, also with the number 2. Shoot us an email, 2mancomicbookclub@gmail.com. Look up our blog, 2mancomicbookclub.blogspot.com. As always, we would love it, love, if you could jump onto Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. If you do that, we will read it. Haven't checked those in a while.
I'm looking right now while you're talking.
Fantastic. It's like we have one brain between us. And you would also love it if you found us on YouTube and subscribed to us, made some comments, left a some likes there, as one does now, because we put these up on video. If this is the first time you've ever listened to us, look us up on YouTube, and you get to see our faces. I was going to say beautiful faces, then I was going to say ugly faces, then I just settled for faces. And Alex also goes through and puts up panels so that you can see it. We always say, you should definitely be reading these because this is a comic book club. But in the meantime, we'll show you some really cool panels because comic books are art.
For sure.
It's a visual medium. We want you to see them as much as we want to talk about them.
We actually do have a new 5-star review.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
You think we should read it now?
Go for it. Yeah.
Cool. So this is from December 13th. This is Kid That Is Skilled Like Kobe. So if you're skilled like Kobe, you got some skills. It says, great content. They left a 5-star review. Just found you on YouTube, which led me to your podcast, and you guys dropped some great and up-to-date content. First comic book podcast I have listened to, and they are amazing. Keep up the great work, guys.
Oh, thanks.
So thanks, Kid Who Is Skilled Like Kobe.
Kid Who Is Skilled Like Kobe.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the shout-out.
Thank you so much. Yeah, maybe since you found us on YouTube, we'd love for you to interact with us. Shoot us some comments.
Yeah, happy to
let us know. Is there something you'd like us to cover?
For sure. Cool. Well, that's all we got today, and we'll be back next time, probably with finishing up this series, I think.
Yep.
Awesome.
That'll be it.
See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Two-Man Comic Book Club podcast is hosted by Alex Miller and Drew Morris. Our graphic and logo work is done by Tessa Price, and our original compositions and theme music were composed by Drew Morris.